It's now my pleasure to introduce our second speaker on today's webinar, who is Belinda Rayment, for a presentation on the Environment Defender's Office. Um, Belinda joined the EDO team so Belinda is a special counsel at the EDO. She joined the EDO team in 2011 and is regarded as an expert in community legal education and outreach and administrative law litigation. She's had carriage of a range of significant proceedings, including the Humane Society International versus the Queensland Department of Fisheries, which was all about the Great Barrier Reef sharks case. And I have to admit, I don't know a lot about that, but I'm now intrigued and we'll have to go and do a bit more research. Belinda is widely regarded as an expert in legal communication and the delivery of community legal education and outreach. Slightly paraphrased, I'm just going to quote from her bio on the EDO website, which says that the ability to effectively communicate complex legal ideas to audiences unfamiliar with legal concepts empowers and redistributes power to those who would otherwise be alienated by our legal systems. And I think that's a great phrase to try and to put a placeholder on what Belinda does. On a personal note, I have some good exposure to EDO and the work they do through my work with the Nature Conservation Council of New South Wales, and I know that we have had some involvement with EDO in over the last year. So,
Mm.
Belinda, I'm hoping you have got your presentation and are ready to share it, and I welcome you and look forward to your presentation.
Great. Thank you, David. I really appreciate you having me. Let me just set up my screen so I'm comfortable seeing everybody. There we go. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep, it's all good.
Excellent. Great. I've tried to make each slide focus on a bird. So you'll be
Well,
pleased
you're
to know
not you're
there's a
not going
bit
to
of
get any complaints from this audience,
bird
so that's
candy on
great.
the slides. So I'm coming to you from Maroubra, which is the land of the Bidjigal people. And I acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past and present. We have a very active and noisy population of yellow-tailed cockatoos here, which we love. We absolutely love seeing them. We have a tree out the front that they gorge on quite regularly, and we love how they tell us when it's going to rain. And apparently the number of birds that fly across in a particular direction um, tells you how many days rain you're going to have. So we find that quite fascinating, and we love looking out for the black cockatoos. So thank you, Adrian, for your presentation as well. It was really interesting. And just staying on the black cockies for a second, we did do some work for BirdLife. I did some advice work for BirdLife, I think maybe 10 years ago now, on the carnabies in WA. So that was a really interesting matter. So today, this is what I'm going to talk about very briefly. I'm just going to talk about who the EDO is and what we do in very brief terms. And then I'm going to set out all the ways that we can help you. Still going with the bird theme. Here we are. So the Environmental Defender's Office is effectively a not-for-profit, non-government community legal centre. And I guess the thing that separates us from your regular community legal centre is that we specialise in public interest environmental law matters. So we only really provide advice and litigation on public interest environmental law matters. We provide other services where potentially it doesn't quite fit that criteria, but we'll get into that in a minute. And so EDO New South Wales started about 40 years ago. We had our 40th birthday this year, and we've had offices around in each state and territory for the better part of 30 years. I think EDO New South Wales was the first one to be founded, and it was started by lawyers who saw a gap in the legislation where, well, the legislation came into force, and in that legislation, there were public participation rights. And so some lawyers at that time, when the EP&A Act came into force, saw that it was necessary for people to have legal education and legal advice on how to engage in those public participation rights. And that's pretty much how the EDO came to be. And so roughly about 5 years ago, maybe, all of those offices in the states and territories merged as one EDO. So we are now a national organisation. And that's with that comes with the reason for doing that is to kind of build efficiencies into the organisation so that we have just one fundraising team and one communications team, and all the finances are managed by one team as well. And then we still have solicitors in every state and territory almost, but all of those other services that are necessary to drive an organisation are centralised into national kind of teams. We at the same time well, I won't say that. Quite a long time ago, we lost the majority of our Commonwealth funding, and that led to EDO Victoria splitting off, and now they're Environmental Justice Australia. And we've over time and since the merge, we've moved to relying a lot less on government funding, and we get the majority of our funding through philanthropic measures. So we rely much more heavily on fundraising to obtain the funding that we need to do the work. And so we're very much more grant focused. Which is good in one sense because it frees us up from, we do sometimes get criticised for spending taxpayers' money to stop development. So it kind of it frees us up to do work a little bit more unencumbered, I guess. At the same time, we do still get some funding from some state governments and territories, and we also have some Commonwealth funding, which allows us to do the threatened species work that we do, which I'll get onto. So there on the slide is really a reflection of our kind of strategic objectives, I guess. So we're really looking at working towards a world where nature thrives, and we do that mostly through empowering communities. So, and we do that, and we'll get into that. We educate people. We do litigate to uphold rights, and we've got a strong law reform team as well. So, and access to justice is really the foundation of everything that we do. And as I said, it was the reason why we came into being, and that still is the foundation of what we do. So since the merge, we've had a few iterations of EDO. We've restructured a couple of times actually, but this is our the current teams as we are. So you may or may not be familiar with our national intake service. That really is kind of the first port of call if you're looking to obtain some legal help from us, whether that's advice, information, fact sheets, whatever it is. There's a legal help gateway on our website that you fill in an online form on the website, and it goes through to our national intake team, and they triage that request, and we put it through all of the criteria and things like that, and then that team will either provide the information service if they can. They can also provide advice. And if they don't have capacity or the expertise to provide the advice because it's something in Northern Territory or something like that they just don't know too much about, then they give that request for advice to our regional teams. As I said, we've got teams in almost every state and territory. And so attached to the National Intake Service is our early legal intervention program, and that's the team that I sit in, and that really focuses on doing everything, all of the steps to provide communities with access to justice, right up until the litigation stage. So we don't litigate, but we will help communities write letters, submit GIPPers, we'll provide legal information, legal workshops, webinars. We lecture at universities. We do all of those things to really raise awareness of the relevant laws in the public interest environmental law space, and to empower communities to take action. That's really effectively the sole purpose of our team. And then we have these regional teams, and they focus on, the issues in their jurisdiction, and they're more focused on advice work and litigation work. We then have a national litigation team, so that kind of sits above as a national team. And if there's a lot of litigation happening in one jurisdiction, say for instance, Queensland, a number of coal mines are approved or something like that, and we've got clients that want to challenge those approvals or object and be heard in the land court, then we have this extra kind of capacity in our national litigation team. And so they'll then work with that regional team to deliver on that litigation. And we have our policy and law reform team, very important team in the organisation, where they engage with new laws and amendments to existing laws. They will write submissions on EDO's behalf. They will write submission guides to assist communities to make their own submissions on particular legislation. The best example we have at the moment is the recent amendments to the EPBC Act. So we've done a lot of work in that space, trying to improve those amendments, raise awareness, help everybody make their submissions, help everybody understand the reforms. They have been quite complicated. And so that's a really important part of EDO as well. Then we have a new team, which is the Country and Cultural Heritage team. And as the name suggests, they focus on First Nations justice. And a lot of that work centres around access to water. And so at the moment, what that looks like is a lot of work around the Murray-Darling Basin and the current 5-year plan review. And to help us do all of the work that we do, we have a science team. So we have in-house scientists, which has been excellent, having that expertise sit within the organisation. And so what they do, they assist on advice and litigation work. They help our litigation team brief the right experts for their cases. They explain the science to us, which is very handy. And they also have what's called an expert register. So we've got about 1,000 experts on this register that have signed up and agreed to provide expert opinions on a pro bono or capped fee basis. So as you can hear, there's plenty of ways that we can help you. I knew he was going to do that. We've got a beautiful Bengal here. So I'm just going to run through a few of those. So legal information is one of the most powerful tools that we have. So we have a whole host of fact sheets on our website. We're constantly updating the fact sheets. We go out, if we identify an issue where, say, we've got 4 or 5 different people filling out a form on our website about the same issue, and we've got a lot of community opposition to something, or a community that really wants to know something, then that's where we identify that through the National Intake Service. And so then we'll go out to that community in person and we'll deliver a community workshop, because that is the best way to raise awareness of an issue, to educate the community about their rights under whatever the relevant legislation is, and to empower people to take action. And I find that going out in person, it's just much more effective. So we can, whilst we can do online workshops and webinars, and we do, I still think going out in person is a very effective and powerful way to kind of educate and empower people to engage with whatever the relevant law is, and then to take action. And it's also a really good way, actually, for communities to meet each other. And sometimes we're going out to rural areas where we're talking to affected landholders. And so it's an opportunity for these landholders that live, tens of kilometers apart to kind of come together and share stories and talk about what they're doing and what's happening on their property and that kind of thing. So it is a really good thing to do. So we can also assist with access to information. So as you know, a good GIPA request can get some great information that can assist you in whatever your campaigns are. And so we can either do the GIPA or the FOI, the Freedom of Information request, or we can just review them as well. We're happy to just review something that somebody's done. We can assist with letters to council or government. So if you wanted to write on a particular issue, we can either assist with the letter or again, review it. If a matter comes up where you need specific legal advice, then if it fits within our public interest criteria and we have capacity, then we can deliver on that legal advice. If we do that, then you're engaging us as your lawyers, and there's that client confidentiality relationship. So, and there's an agreement between the two. So that's actually written legal advice. That's very different to getting legal information from the National Intake Service. Legal advice is separate from that. And then we also, as I said, our law reform team, if there's an issue like the EPBC Act reforms or the Basin Review, like those bigger kind of issues, then our law reform team will put together a submission guide. And sometimes we also go out and do just submission writing workshops where we've developed a submission guide and then we can help people write those submissions. Oh, I've gone backwards, hang on. And they're kind of the links there for engaging in the National Intake Service. That's actually the email address for the National Intake Service. You can also go onto the website and, as I said, follow that legal help gateway. And if you just wanted to have a look at the fact sheets and submissions on our website, you can go there and you just click up the top to legal resources, I think it is, and then you can just browse through those. And then you can also sign up for our monthly newsletter, which is called Insight, and you can do that on the website as well. I've lost track of how long I've been talking for, David, so I'm going to leave it there and offer up
Belinda,
questions.
you are almost exactly on time, so that's pretty impressive. So well done. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
That was fascinating, and EDO does the most amazing work. So it's great to get a bit of insight into your structure and the ways to work with you. Perhaps if you can unshare your screen again, and then we can just get everybody up on the screen, and then we'll just run around and get some questions. And I have a question first up from Barry.
Thank
Hi.
you, thank you, Belinda.
All right.
I thought I'd, for starters, point out to those present that we're very grateful for the assistance that you and Joe Meyer have given us in supporting our Deben Spit campaign, Southern Sydney Shorebirds campaign. Not only the legal advice that you provided to ourselves and also provided separately to Julie Keating have been highly valuable in our campaign so far. And it was particularly gratifying when you and Joe visited the spit with myself and Chris Binns and Julie Keating to see for yourself what we're dealing with down there. So we really appreciate and we really admire the work that the EDO are doing. I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to ask this question, though. You mentioned in your presentation that you do community workshops. Can you give me an idea of the type of things discussed at community workshops? What kind of communities are we talking about?
So a lot of the time the workshops are focused around a particular project. So say there's a proponent has put in an application for a coal mine. Let's just use that as an example. And then you have an active community around that area that's opposed to the coal mine. then we will go up and we'll do a workshop most of the time it's in the local town hall or the community hall. And what we talk about is we talk about the assessment and approval process. So everybody understands what the project is, what the process for assessing and potentially approving that project is, and more importantly, how people can engage. So at what points can they engage, how best to engage, and what they can do if a particular decision is made to approve that project. So they're quite targeted. They're very targeted to communities that are focused on a particular issue or a particular project. And they're identified pretty quickly as we get a lot of inquiries come through the National Intake Service about one project. And it's not always a coal mine. It can be waste to energy. It can be renewable energies. It can be anything. But you quickly kind of pick up that there's an issue because we'll get quite a few inquiries about the same project, and that's when we identify that need to go out and deliver on that workshop.
Thank you. If I can just to check with Christian, I wasn't quite sure whether you were putting your hand up or whether it was just your hand across the screen. Can you just give me a thumbs up if you had a question? No question. Okay, thank you. Elizabeth, question from, sorry, I think Chris, you were next.
Thanks, David. Wonderful, Belinda. I'm actually amazed at the work you do, and I'm assuming that you do this for free. I mean, this is
yes.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely amazing. And then following on from that, my question is, how are you funded? I mean, are you just completely voluntary, or do you get some kind of government help or grants or donations?
Yeah. So we rely mostly on philanthropic now. So we're doing a lot of grants. We've got a whole team that is a grant writing team. So, and then as you know, like when you're writing grants and you get grants, you need to deliver on that grant. So that's been a tricky change to the way that we work. We used to just have because I've been there for so long. So just say EDO New South Wales, right? We had what was called the Public Purpose Fund. And so the state government just kind of funded us out of that fund. And so we didn't really need to think about acquitting grants. But now it's so much, but now those grants are can be quite specific. And so we have a range of those. And so we have a team that kind of manages that. And we do have Commonwealth funding, and it's actually the Commonwealth funding that allows us to do the threatened species work that we do. So anything that we do for, BirdLife or anything that involves a threatened species, that funding is coming from the Commonwealth government at the moment.
Thank you. Elizabeth.
Thanks, David. That was really interesting, Belinda, to learn a bit of the detail of how you're negotiating finance.
Yeah.
So I was aware that funding was cut several years ago, and yes, must be completely different kettle of fish for you.
Yes.
My question is, we are going to be putting a submission in about the Murray-Darling Basin review.
Yep.
And we've seen submission guides from Environmental Justice.
Yeah,
it's interesting to learn their relationship with you as well.
Yeah,
I was curious about that, and also the Murray-Darling what's it called, Conservation Alliance. And I was wondering, does that mean that you're not going to be doing anything active for that because it's already covered?
No, so we've done it slightly differently. So we have put out a submission guide, but you'll see that the EJA one is quite a short, concise, very, very, I've seen it. It's a very good submission guide and it doesn't go into a lot of detail, but it just touches on those, those really 5 key areas, I think it was. Whereas we've decided to go right down into the detail. So we've produced 2 submission guides. One is just a bit of a summary. Then we've done the deep dive and we've produced like a 50-page document. So you should be able to find that on our website. If I can find it while I'm talking, I can potentially put it in the chat. But yeah, we've done a lot of work, and we've put a lot of detailed work into that.
Thanks. And Belinda, you can always just send us the link afterwards and we can distribute
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
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 All right.
And I know we do get your newsletter, or I'm
Yep.
pretty sure
Okay.
we do, and I do individually as well, but confess I often don't actually get to look for it or look at it. So I
I think
probably
it
got
might
the
be
link.
it might be in the last newsletter, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Bales, you've got a question.
Yes, thank you. And Elizabeth, thank you, because you've answered part of my question in your question. Thanks, Belinda. I just wonder whether it's worthwhile writing in a submission, something that is an idea that's quite extreme. And what I'm talking about is something I've written to governments about over a number of years now, and that is my belief that fresh water in Australia should be returned to public ownership.
Right.
Now, that might take time, but I think it's absolutely wrong and
That it's been
immoral of the
privatised.
government to allow profiteering
Yeah.
in fresh water.
Yeah, it's become an economy. It's
Yes,
an
that's
actual market. So I think we would absolutely cover that in our submission guide on the Murray-Darling. We've done a lot of work on water allocation plans and all of the water licenses and how they operate and how they're exchanged and bought and sold and all of that. So we do know a lot about that. What I'd say about submission writing is I say put in whatever you like, and I think with submissions it is much better to be solution focused. And so what you're presenting is a solution. And so you can set out all of the reasons why the current system isn't working. It's failing everybody. You can set out all of those reasons, and then you have the solution. So you're offering up that solution, and if you back that with evidence, then that's an excellent submission.
I'll send you a copy of my letter. Thank you.
Okay, great.
And I really like that thought, Belinda, of being solution focused. I do have another question. I'm just scanning to see if anybody else had another question. What percentage of the work that you do is pro bono?
Of the work that we do?
Yeah.
Or like
100%.
I would say 100%. I think when we're doing litigation, we do charge a small amount to cover off on those professional fees. But at the same time, if our client is successful, then those fees are recovered from the other side. So if you get to the litigation stage, then we do charge a nominal amount really for our fees, but everything else is pro bono. Yeah.
And a last question, which is a bit of a grenade question, so I'll give you a heads up. It's a grenade question.
Right.
I'm interested just in your top line response as to the impact on EDO of the finding against EDO in the Santos case last year, which was very public and a very large sum of money. And I'm well aware of the immediate after impact where there was some thought about would EDO survive, etc. So I'm very very glad we've got through all that. But I'm just wondering what kind of impact that had at a broad level, on you internally in your processes and ability to assess, etc.
Yeah, and so it had an absolute disastrous effect on the way that we work, because for this reason, the way that proceeding was run was potentially designed to use up all of our resources.
Yeah.
And we're not a large organization. So we have probably, I would say we probably have about 40 solicitors, 40 to 50 solicitors across the whole country. And that piece of litigation really used up a lot of those resources. So it took away from all of the other work that we do. We had so many people working on that, and it was really difficult. It was a really difficult time, and and there's also been a lot of soul searching and reflection and figuring out exactly what went wrong and how that went wrong and all of those things. And that's taken a lot of time as well. It's all been worthwhile, I think. But yeah, it was a very difficult time and very pleased to have come out the other side, got to say.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, I'm very glad that the reflection has ended up in a positive place, because it was a bit of a shot across the bows, that one. Yeah.
It really was.
Belinda, I thank you very much for your time. That was fascinating, and I'm very glad to have better insights into what you provide and what you do. And we are, of course, grateful for the work you have been supporting us with. So on behalf of everybody, thank you very much. I really appreciated that.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.